Coming up on tonight's broadcast, an OSU Athletics weekend preview, an investigation of abuse from the daughter of a judge, a guilty verdict for the Merchant of Death, and your weather update. All that and more right here on the Beaver News.
Of the Beaver News. I'm Spencer Smallwood.
And I'm Kim Stowell. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., the women's soccer team will take on the University of Oregon in their final game of the regular season. The women hope to secure their third-place finish in the Pac-12 and land a good spot in the NCAA tournament. As junior defender Milan Cabrera summed up the goal for tomorrow's game, saying, quote, "Going into the postseason, I want to end with a win," end quote. The Daily Barometer reports that the women's soccer team has not lost to the Ducks in 5 years, including 2 ties and 2 wins since 2006. For the 5 seniors graduating this year, a loss on Friday could be their last game at Paul Lorenz Field. As members of the team that helped turn the women's soccer program around, there will be many emotions on the field tomorrow, and they will be celebrating their successes and years spent at OSU.
Oregon State University is partnering with Western University of Health Sciences and Lynn Benton Community College to provide the Interprofessional Education Program. The program is a collaborative environment for healthcare students from various disciplines. The Daily Barometer reports that each year-long class holds 100 students, with an enrollment handled by the university's Western University's College of Osteopathic Medicine of the Pacific has created a new center near the Lebanon Community Hospital called Comp Northwest. As part of Comp Northwest, IPE program students from fields like veterinary medicine, pharmacy, nursing, and public health work together to solve difficult medical mysteries and practice a rounded approach to healthcare. The first classes are at the center started last August. Out of the 45 states with health schools, Oregon is the 43rd in the rate of medical students per 100,000 people. Comp Northwest is the first new medical school built in the state in 60 years. The program's directors hope to increase the amount of medical students in the area and have located the Comp Northwest building in Lebanon in order to draw attention to the need for physicians in rural areas of Oregon. 4-year enrollment for the campus is expected to host 400 students at the start.
Next Thursday, November 10th, from 4 to 6 p.m., OSU will be hosting a climate geoengineering governance titled, "Can We Geoengineer Our Way Out of Climate Trouble?" The event will be led by Dr. Steve Rayner, the director of the Institute for Science, Innovation, and Society and the SED Business School of the University of Oxford, as well as the director of the Oxford program on the future of cities. It will be held in the Agricultural and Life Sciences Building, room 4000, and attendance is free.
The Beavers volleyball team has had their eyes set on 9 conference wins since the beginning of the season in order to have a realistic chance of being included in the 64-team NCAA tournament. The Daily Barometer reports that Oregon State raised their conference record to 6-8 over the weekend with a 5-set victory over the University of Colorado and a 3-set sweep over the University of Utah. This weekend, they'll travel south to take on the Arizona schools, who they split with at home earlier this year. Redshirt freshman setter Tyler Woods had this to say about the wins, quote, "You have to go into every game thinking it's your last, and I think that's what we did before. We were like, we have to get this win, so we played with that type of intensity," end quote. Oregon State is in the unique position of having control of their destiny, but for the time to reach their 9-win goal, they'll more than likely need to win one or both games this weekend. Oregon State is currently in a tie with the University of Oregon for the 7th place in the Pac-12 standings.
Help make a name for himself thanks to a candle. Computer science student Marty Ulrich developed a Candle cell phone app that since April of 2011 has been downloaded by more than 800,000 users. The Daily Barometer reports that Free Candle was developed to promote the company VisiCandle, a manufacturer of flameless LED candles, but took on an entirely different spin following the death of Steve Jobs. People wanted to honor Jobs with a candlelight vigil, and when they searched for the candle on their iPhone, Free Candle was the first to show up. Quote, Ulrich ends the recent popularity of his app to luck, saying, quote, an iOS candle was the natural choice for the vigil. We just happened to have what they wanted.
After impeaching ASOSU President Hopoi for delegation of duties in representing OSU within the Oregon Student Association, the future of an OSA relationship still remains uncertain. In an ASOSU House of Representatives meeting last night, 2 OSA members were present, and the Representative Andrew Struthers announced that the bylaws for an investigative committee had been passed and that they would begin to hear testimony from both OSU and OSA representatives as soon as the time could be set. All investigation is expected to be completed by the end of this term, with a final report being presented to Congress by winter term. Speaker of the House, Drew Hatlin, acknowledged that until a final report is presented and reviewed, no decision regarding whether or not to resume funding OSA would be made. Until the student fees previously collected and earmarked for OSA will remain in a frozen account. We're now going to our field reporter, Janessa Kirk, for information about the Oregon State Career Fair.
I'm Janessa Kirk, and I am here live at the Oregon State University Career Fair. Let's go inside and get some information. I'm here with Lindsay Reed at the Career Fair. Lindsay, what do you think the main goal students have when they want to come here and get experience from the Career Fair?
Yeah, so I think the main goal for our students coming to the Career Fair is making connections with employers, also finding jobs and internship opportunities at the Career Fair, but mainly making those connections with employers.
And what are employers looking for in the students that come?
Absolutely. I'd say about 80% of the employers actually are looking for all majors, so they're not recruiting one specific major, but they're looking for driven students, and they're looking to make connections. So a lot of them are coming with recruiting needs, specific ones. They want to fill full-time positions, part-time positions, internships. So they're coming with a whole host of needs, but they're also wanting to connect with students and have them find out more about their industry and their specific company.
And what can students do to prepare themselves to come here and be successful at the Career Fair?
It's a great question. We're really emphasizing students preparing for the fair, and some ways that they can do that. With us from Career Services specifically, they can come and do resume drop-ins 1 to 4 daily and actually get their resume reviewed. We've also encouraged students to get free business cards. You can order them online, bring those to the fair. Do mock interviews, so come into Career Services and actually practice and do some of our workshops. We had one success at the Career Fair, so how to kind of prep and make sure that you're ready to have your 30-second infomercial with employers. So you may have you only have a few seconds to make a first impression, so making sure that you're practicing that before you come to the fair, making sure that you're appropriately dressed and those kind of things. So we have 1 fair per term. So our next fair, actually our next 2 fairs, our university-wide will be February 22nd, 2012, and the engineering fair is always the following day, so that's the 23rd. And then we have our university-wide career fair on April 25th. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I'm here with some students who came and experienced the Career Fair. What would you guys recommend for other students to come next time?
To be prepared and do some research before they come in here, get an idea of where they want to be when they graduate, or look for summer internships.
And what was your guys' experience coming? Did you guys end up finding anything interesting, or?
Yeah, I got to talk to a couple people that I might have a potential opportunity to come in and talk with some more about some jobs and stuff.
I think one hard thing for me was I'm not going to be staying here in Oregon come this summer after graduation, so trying to find references outside the state up near Seattle, Washington, so that way I have some sort of reference from the university to a place, the destination where I'm going.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. One word of advice from the director of the Career Fair Center, David Cochran, said that students should make a list of the employers. That way when they get here, they're prepared with questions. That's all we have today at the Career Fair Center. Thanks a lot, and make sure to come back in February for the next one.
Thank you, Janessa. Occupy Wall Street protesters this morning yet again resulted in the use of police force and were subdued by officers with tear gas and pepper spray after the protesters shut down a California port and disrupted rush hour traffic in Seattle, reports CNN. In Oakland, police fired tear gas on several hundred that were shooting fireworks and throwing rocks at officers after they were asked to disperse. The protesters also disrupted business at the Port of Oakland, and port officials hope to be able to resume work by today. In Washington, hundreds of the Occupy protesters surrounded a hotel in downtown Seattle where J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon was speaking, causing the streets to be blocked during rush hour traffic. 5 people were arrested on misdemeanor charges, and at least 10 officers were assaulted while removing the protesters from the scene.
The U.S. Air Force announced Wednesday a restructuring in its civil workforce that will mean a net of reduction of thousands of civilian jobs. The changes will include a 9,000 job reductions in management, staff, and supportive positions. At the same time, 5,900 new civilian jobs will be added in fields including nuclear development, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Secretary of the Air Force Michael B. Donnelly said, quote, "We are making difficult choices about how to deliberately restructure and posture the force, and will continue to look for new ways of accomplishing the mission. We can't afford a business as usual," end quote. The cuts will affect bases in several states and local economies that rely on those bases. The restructuring will take effect by October 1st of next year, according to the Air Force. We're now going to take you to a weather update from Max Newfield.
Thank you very much. I'm here with your Thursday's forecast, and it's going to be cold and rainy, so you want to bundle up there. Tomorrow, however, we get some sun with a high of 51 and a low of 40. Saturday, the rain rolls in with a high of 44 and a low of 41, so you're going to really want to bundle up there. Sunday, we got the high of 50 and a low of 40, still raining, but on Monday, the clouds, it's just cloudy, not really raining, but still high of 53 and a low of 41. And Tuesday, we have a high of 50 and a low of 42 when the rain comes back. So bundle up, Corvallis, because it's going to be a cold and wet one. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Max. A video has been released on the internet by a woman in Texas showing her father, a judge, beating her. In the video, she claims that such abuse was a regular occurrence in her family home. The woman, Hillary Adams, now 23, said, quote, "It did happen regularly for a period of time, and I could tell, because of the pattern, that things were escalating again," end quote. Her father is William Adams, Arkansas County Court-at-Law judge. He faces an investigation and a judicial probe since the video's release and has been temporarily relieved of his duties for the next 2 weeks. No court dates were scheduled this week. Adams has admitted to beating his daughter and said, quote, "She's mad because I've ordered her to bring the car back. In a nutshell, but yeah, that's me. I lost my temper," end quote. A Facebook page called Don't Re-elect Judge William Adams has come about, gaining nearly 20,000 likes by Thursday morning.
For thousands of prison inmates convicted of crack cocaine charges, the prison doors will be opening early due to sentencing changes easing the disparity between penalties for possessing or distributing crack versus powdered cocaine. Congress passed the Fair Sentencing Act in August 2010, changing the 100-to-1 disparity between minimum sentences for crack and powdered cocaine to 18-to-1. The U.S. Sentencing Commission voted this summer to make the reduced crack penalties retroactive, which means more than 12,000 current inmates are eligible to request reduced sentences. The Sentencing Commission estimates that inmates will have an average of 3 years removed from their sentences. An estimated 1,800 inmates became eligible for release immediately because they had already served enough time, and the prosecutors did not object to their release. Under the old guidelines, someone who had just 5 grams of crack cocaine would receive a mandatory sentence of 5 years. But someone would have 500 grams of powder cocaine to receive a similar sentence. But even with the charges, there is still an 18-to-1 disparity in sentences for crack and powder cocaine offenses. A person with crack will have to have 28 grams before triggering a mandatory 5-year minimum sentence.
In somewhat unbelievable news, CNN has reported that the federal airport screeners still find 4 to 5 guns at checkpoints on a typical day. Administrator John Pistol said, quote, "Yesterday we found 6, including one at Bradley, a loaded gun with 7 rounds in it, in a checked bag that was trying to get through," end quote. Often, passengers claim they forgot the weapon was in their bag, but recently, one passenger at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport attempted to board a plane with 2 pistols, 3 ammunition magazines, 8 knives, and a handsaw in their carry-on bag, according to TSA. The passenger was arrested by local law enforcement. So far this year, more than 900 guns have been recovered at checkpoints, according to TSA. Senators at a Senate Homeland Security Committee hearing generally praised TSA for its work with the new body scanners and the behavioral detection officers, while members of the travel industry felt procedures still need to be improved.
In other words, folks, please leave your guns at home. The lead prosecutor in the case against Dr. Conrad Murray for the involuntary manslaughter of Michael Jackson told jurors in the closing statements today that the evidence against Murray is overwhelming and abundantly clear. Deliberations are expected to begin Friday. That follows the 22 days of testimony from several of Murray's girlfriends and patients, Jackson's employees, paramedics and emergency room doctors, investigators, and medical experts. Murray told detectives in an interview 2 days after Jackson's death that he had used the surgical anesthetic propofol to help Jackson sleep nearly every night for the previous 2 months, with the exception of his last 3 nights. He was using the sedatives lorazepam and midazolam in an effort to wean Jackson off the propofol the morning he died. When those drugs weren't working after almost 10 hours of trying, he gave a single injection of propofol, which did put Jackson to sleep. Jackson's death was caused by an acute propofol intoxication in combination with the 2 sedatives, Los Angeles County coroner ruled. Jackson was prepared for a series of 50 shows in London in part of a career comeback when he died on June 25, 2009. If convicted, Murray faces 4 years in prison and loses his medical license.
It's time to take our final break of the evening, but we will have your remaining international stories in just a few minutes. Stay tuned.
Pants. I am folding the pants. The pants are long. Do they go on my head? Do they? Do the pants go on my head? No. They go on
Everyday moments can become teaching moments because learning starts long before school does. Give your child the start they need at bornlearning.org.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bagging lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Hair loss. Now this rash on my face, what's going on?
For answers, ask your doctor the right question.
Could I have lupus?
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.
Horseradish. Is that for horses? Remember me, Mr. Lobster? From last Tuesday?
Banana. 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 Here comes the rain. We need a hat. And why do we need a hat?
They got.
That's right.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Welcome back to the Beaver News on Channel 26. According to an intelligence report released earlier today, the United States is publicly accusing China and Russia of being the top offenders in the theft of U.S. economic technology and information. CNN is reporting that a senior U.S. intelligence office official said that the two countries are trying to build their economies on American research and development. The report noted that analysts could not pinpoint specific responsibility in China for many of the intrusions, but it has been reported that the attacks could be government intelligence services, corporations, or individuals. In regards to information about Russia, the report was more specific and said, quote, Russia's intelligence services are conducting a range of activities to collect economic information and technology from U.S. targets, end quote. According to the report, the outlook isn't particularly bright, and that Russia and China will continue to lead the pack in attacking U.S. systems. Changing economic and political developments around the world could lead to other nations to steal economic secrets as well.
More on China. China's unmanned spacecraft Shenzhou 8 successfully docked with the lab module Tiangong-1 earlier this morning, another milestone for Beijing's plan to help build a space station. Hu Ping, spokesperson with the China Manned Space Engineering Project, said, quote, the equipment works well, and all orbit experiments are progressing well, end quote. President Hu Jintao, currently in Europe at the G20 summit, praised the nations for space docking. The two modules will fly together for 12 days before conducting another docking test. The docked spacecraft will then fly for 2 more days before separating from each other. Shenzhou 8 is scheduled to return to Earth on November 17th, while Tiangong-1 will remain in space to wait for the next docking test. China sent its first astronaut into space in 2003, the first stage in a three-step strategy to develop its manned engineering project. The launch of the Tiangong-1 lab module is the second step. If successful, it will be followed by the last phase to build a permanent space lab that will allow astronauts to conduct long-term space experiments. It is believed that China hopes to build a space station by around 2020.
It is believed that Bedouin smugglers involved in human trafficking are also stealing organs from refugees who are unable to pay their demands for large amounts of cash to take them to Israel. CNN reported earlier today that evidence has been presented by the New Generation Foundation for Human Rights and the Everyone group from Italy of bodies found in the Sinai Desert with organs missing. The Sawarka Bedouin tribe, one of the largest in Sinai, was named as being involved in organ thefts. None of the Bedouin leaders in Sinai was willing to speak openly about the organ theft, claiming either that they knew nothing or had only heard rumors. Hamdi al-Azizi, head of New Generation Foundation, has photos of the corpses and said, quote, "The organs are not useful if they're dead. They drug them first and remove their organs, then leave them to die and dump them in a deep, dry well along with hundreds of bodies," end quote. An investigation headed by Dr. Fakhri Saleh has shown that illegal organ trafficking is one of the most profitable criminal activities. The police general in charge of security in northern Sinai said that his forces are aware that the organ trafficking and theft are going on, but that the authorities have yet to identify who is behind the schemes.
Convicted Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout could face life in prison after a federal jury returned guilty verdicts. Bout was convicted of four counts related to a conspiracy to kill Americans, acquire and export anti-aircraft missiles, and provide materials to support a terrorist organization. Widely dubbed the Merchant of Death, Bout was often referred to by U.S. and UN officials as among the most notorious of global arms traffickers. Bout's attorney, Albert Dayan, said during the trial that the former Soviet Air Force officer was not involved in any illegal arms sales, claiming that federal agents had bailed Bout into selling the weapons alongside a deal to sell airplanes. Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney for Manhattan, called for the Russian tycoon a very dangerous man in a statement Wednesday. In that quote, he aimed to sell those weapons to terrorists for the purpose of killing Americans, end quote. The undercover agents posing as Colombian rebels attempted to buy the large caches of weapons. The agents tried to purchase 700 to 800 surface-to-air missiles, as well as thousands of AK-47s and landmines, telling Bout that they wanted the arms to kill Americans. He was extradited to the United States in 2010 following his arrest and a protracted court proceeding in Thailand. The Russian businessman has also been accused of assembling a fleet of cargo planes to traffic military-grade weapons to conflict zones around the world since the 1990s. The 2005 movie, Lord of War, starring Nicolas Cage, is considered to be largely inspired by Bout's life.
4 people were left dead in northwest Syria on Thursday, a day after the government pledged to end its anti-regime crackdown and remove troops from the streets. CNN has reported that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government agreed Wednesday to, quote, "stop all violence from any side in order to protect the Syrian citizens," end quote. They also agreed to allow Arab League observers and international journalists in to document the developments. It has also been reported that they will launch a national dialogue in 2 weeks. Syria has made previous attempts at removing armed forces from civilian areas and defusing the protests, but they have yet to succeed. That's all the news we have for you tonight, but be sure to tune in Monday right here on KBVR.